Good evening and welcome to the first ever wall-to-wall sports Buckeyes draft. I'm Dave Holmes. Here's how it works. We have two general managers here, former Buckeye receiver Roy Hall and former Buckeye running back Beanie Wells. They will select the best NFL team they can using only Ohio State players eligible for this year's draft. Just like the real NFL draft, there are 7 rounds. Our GMs obviously won't be able to fill an entire roster. They're just trying to pick the guys they believe will be the best professional players. Moments ago, we flipped the coin. Tails never fails. Roy Hall won the toss and is now officially on the clock. I'm joined now by Tim May of the Columbus Dispatch. Tim, conventional wisdom here, Joey Bosa, but we have 2 offensive GMs. Any shot Roy Hall goes off script and shocks us here.
There's always a chance Roy Hall will go off script. He might even pick a Michigan player. You know, you can't trust this guy. But bottom line is he's got to go Joey Bosa. You know, Joey Bosa declared himself the best player in the draft. I think he's the best player among the Buckeyes from an overall standpoint, prospect standpoint, although offense has its dividends. But when you got a guy that can affect the passing game like Joey Bosa, I think you go for him.
All right, well, the pick is in. Time now to head to the podium for the first time with Commissioner Dom Tiberi.
With the first pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Roy Hall selects Joey Bosa, defensive end.
And with that, we are off and running. Joey Bosa, like you said, Tim, just because it's the obvious pick doesn't make it a bad pick.
That is correct. But this is a guy that can affect the football game. It can affect the quarterback. And who knows? I mean, they can even drop him off in a little bit of zone pass coverage. I think he's that well-rounded. You can put him inside or outside. He's a guy, you know, pro football now these days is all about the passing game.
Right.
Whether or not you can affect the quarterback and whether or not the quarterback has somebody to throw to and or hand it off to. So
it's always good to be number one. Kayla Anderson standing by with a very happy general manager. Kayla?
A very happy Roy Hall joining us, and you had that #1 overall pick. Was there even any question that you were going to go with Joey Bosa?
No question at all. I think one thing that you know about it being, you know, the defending GM of the year, you know that you have to somehow get that pass rusher anytime you have an opportunity to. I mean, we don't have a big-time quarterback right now, but if you can sack and put pressure on the other quarterback, that's what you want to do.
What excites you the most about this guy?
His guns. I mean, he's big, long arms. His arms aren't as quite as big as mine are. I need to get him in the weight room a little bit more. But just his technique has been awesome. He can get the offensive tackles off and extend those big arms. And so he doesn't have to have a off-the-ball speed that you want, but his technique is flawless.
Absolutely. He'll be doing a lot of this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if he can do that. You get fined for that at the next level. And so, you know, I'll eat a fine or two.
Okay.
If he gets at least 10 sacks this year, I'll eat a couple of those fines
We're
for him.
holding you to that. Thanks so much, Roy Hall.
Well, Beanie Wells now officially on the clock for the first time. Tim, what should he do?
Well, he should get rid of his nervousness and just pick Ezekiel Elliott, the best running back overall in the draft, one of the top players in this draft, and probably #1 in the all-time blocking list, et cetera. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He is, in my opinion, a hands-down pick. I mean, it's kind of like no mystery here.
Well, I would be stunned if our running back doesn't go running back. The pick is in. Let's head back to Commissioner Tiberi.
With the second pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Beanie Wells selects Ezekiel Elliott, running back.
Surprise, surprise, the running back takes the running back. Tim, most general managers shy away from taking it back this early. Zeke, though, like you said earlier, he's the rare 3-down player.
Exactly. I mean, this is a guy that doesn't have to come off the field. He rarely did. I mean, you know, Ohio State this year is kind of paying the price for that, not having an experienced back. But, yes, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's one of the most healthy players you've ever seen play the game. He played hurt with just one arm, basically, that national championship year. So, yeah, big pick, a good pick by Beanie Wells.
Well, Zeke Elliott said earlier this season he likes to summon his inner Beanie Wells on the football field. Now he's playing for Beanie. Let's go back to Kayla.
Joining me now is General Manager Beanie Wells, and this was probably a pretty easy pick for you, Zeke, overall at #2.
It absolutely was. Anytime you get an opportunity to draft a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, a phenomenal player, in my opinion, the best player in the draft, you can't help but go up and grab this guy with the #2 overall pick. A guy that possesses so many attributes, can catch, can run, can block, can do anything you ask him to do.
What is the thing you're looking most forward to with molding a young guy like this?
I'm looking forward to getting him involved in the pass game. You know, he's a guy that didn't catch a lot of passes at Ohio State, but when he did get the opportunity to get in the receiving game, he was phenomenal. So I get him with a great quarterback and get him out there and see him split out a little bit and get a chance to see how he is as a receiver.
We're looking forward to big things from Mr. Beanie Wells' team here.
Okay, it's on to round 2, and Tim, here's where things really get interesting. You assume Roy Hall goes defense here. If he does, plenty of options out there.
Yeah, I mean, Eli Apple sitting there, Darren Lee sitting there. I mean, you know, the guy that nobody knew what to do with 3 years ago. Now all of a sudden he's a kind of a prototype. I'm talking about Darren Lee. I mean, I really think I really think Eli Apple is going to be the pick here, just because he's had a tremendous offseason since the end of the season, working out for all the NFL teams. I really think Eli Apple will be the pick.
Well, it feels like defense here. Our question about to be answered. Commissioner Taberi with the pick.
With the third pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Roy Hall selects Eli Apple, cornerback.
Wow, Eli Apple, you called it. Very interesting pick. First off, 3 for 3. Let's see if you can go the whole way. What do you think of the pick?
I think it's a great pick, because Eli Apple still has a ways to go from a development standpoint, but man, the upside is huge. He's got speed, he's got size. He really became, I think, a really good shutdown type corner.
Well, we're expecting 3 defensive backs to be selected today. Eli Apple, the first to go. At some point, Von Bell and Tyvis Powell will join him. Speaking of Tyvis, let's take a look at him sitting there in the green room. Nerve-wracking time to be a player, and he's not the only one. Cardell Jones there, waiting to hear his name called. Tim, what's it like to sit there and not know your future?
I'm not sure, man. I've never sat there. I've never had that. I can't imagine going through this, these players, because really it's not just about how much money they're going to make. It's where they're going to live for the rest of their life. Are they going to have Beanie Wells breathing down their throat, or are they going to have Roy Hall breathing down their throat? I mean, all expectations. It's got to be very tough, not knowing your future, but knowing you are going to be somewhere pretty good.
Well, the wait is over for one player. Here's Dom Taberi with our next selection.
With the fourth pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Beanie Wells selects Darren Lee, linebacker.
Tim, Darren Lee is a defensive coordinator's dream. How do you think he projects at the next level?
He projects as a wild card that a defensive coordinator can use in all kinds of different ways. Anybody that watches the Super Bowl knows how big that is in the National Football League now, of having a guy shooting at you from all kinds of different angles. Darren Lee definitely has that ability, and he's big enough to play classic linebacker if he has to, but he can run and gun with a lot of the receivers and the running backs out there.
Now, we're finished with the first 2 rounds here. I think most people had these as the top 4 players in some order. Roy Hall back on the clock now.
Yeah.
Things get really interesting. Who do you think he takes at this spot?
You know, I've been studying it, and, you know, on my list, I mean, I've got Taylor Decker listed as the next best player, but, you know, it comes down to personal taste. That's the thing about the NFL draft that's interesting. People, it's not necessarily a backyard pickup where you're just taking the next best player.
Right.
You're taking the guy that's going to help you in a position where you have some need, and or he's an outstanding player. But I would think Taylor Decker would be the next guy off the board on my list.
All right, let's find out. The pick is in. Commissioner Taberi is at the podium.
With the fifth pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Roy Hall selects Taylor Decker, offensive lineman.
Well, he's a big reason why the Buckeye seniors set a school record with 50 wins. I'm back here with Nostradamus, Tim May. Do you see Decker playing left tackle in the NFL?
Well, that's the beauty about him. I think he can play left tackle, but I think he would move to right tackle in a heartbeat if it helps the football team.
Yeah.
And, I think he'd be a star there or stud there for a long time. But I think he definitely could play left tackle. You got to understand, man, these guys have gone against some good players.
Sure.
Growing up at Ohio State and in the last 4 years in big-time games. I definitely think he has the chops to play left tackle for a while in the National Football League.
Well, for more on the pick, let's send it back over to Kayla.
Roy Hall back with me now, number 5 overall, and you go with Taylor Decker, the lineman.
Yes, you have to. You got to protect the quarterback, the blind side, right? And he's probably going to be one of those left tackles that becomes one of those Hall of Fame type caliber guys. He works hard, has a great work ethic, a great motor, high intensity guy. He's a leader on the football team. That's why we had to pick him up and make sure we protected that quarterback.
What stands out the most to you? And he is a big guy, you said.
Well, the fact that he's been battling in the trenches with my first overall pick in Joey Bosa, and so he's been going against the best for the last 3 or 4 years of his career at Ohio State. So he's looking forward to getting on the field and battling some of those other guys, those AFC and NFC talents on defensive end. But he's a great guy and he's ready to go.
The making of a great team right now, Roy
absolutely.
Hall. Thank you very much.
Beanie Wells' next pick is in. Quickly, who do you think?
Well, it could be Michael Thomas. It could be Von Bell. I'm going to go Michael Thomas offense. I think this guy is definitely underrated at this point in this draft.
Okay, I'm thinking maybe Braxton Miller, maybe defense. All right, Taberi's at the podium. Let's find out.
With the 6th pick in the wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft, Beanie Wells selects Von Bell, safety.
Congratulations to Von Bell, and congratulations to the commissioner who just made $62,000 while announcing that pick.
Wow.
That must be nice. All right, tell me about Von Bell here, Tim.
big time upside.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of that, I told him one time he's one of my top 5 or 6 players I've ever covered at Ohio State. He's a guy that will speak his mind on a lot of things. I think he's got a great football mind. He almost always ends up in the picture at the end of a play.
It's instinct.
Either making a play. I mean, you can't coach that. I mean, he has a way of getting in the picture, and I think this is a nice pick by Beanie Wells.
Well, for more on that selection, let's send it back over to Kayla.
3rd round draft pick this time. You're going to go with a defensive guy, Von Bell. What did you see out of him?
I saw a ball-hawking safety, a guy that was all over the field, willing to come up in the run game, and that's really important when you're drafting a young safety, a guy that's willing and ready to come up and tackle. We know what he can do as far as coverage goes, but I was so fortunate that this guy fell to me in my position.
Some call him maybe a little undersized, but mentally he has some strength there. What is he going to have to work on?
You know, one of the things he's going to have to work on at the back end, at a safety, you like those guys to be the quarterback of your defense. And I think just bumping up his mental capacity, his ability to assess offenses and assess different quarterbacks, I think that's one of the things he's going to have to get better at. But I see a bright future with him.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Beanie.
So that concludes the 3rd round. Still plenty of nervous players waiting in our green room, which for some reason is mostly blue. Joshua Perry waiting for that phone to ring. Tim, give me your top 3 players still available as we go to round 4.
Well, I'm looking at my little list here. I've got Michael Thomas sitting right there, man. The good hands people would like to have him. Nick Vanette, I thought he really made a real rise through the last month and a half of the process. And then Braxton Miller sitting there. You could take Braxton Miller or Joshua Perry.
Yeah.
Those would be my top 4.
Well, let's find out the next pick. Knowing Roy Hall, I'm guessing we see a wide receiver here. He has 3 to pick from. I'm not sure which one, though. Let's find out.
With the 7th pick in the Wall-to-Wall Sports Buckeye Draft, Roy Hall selects Michael Thomas, wide receiver.
Wow, okay, Tim, you called it. Now, a major surprise for me, though. Braxton Miller was the combine darling. What do you think about Michael Thomas before Braxton Miller?
Braxton is going to get drafted definitely in this draft.
Sure.
He is definitely a project, as well as being a great prospect. But Michael Thomas, I mean, he's a guy that's going to, in my opinion, is going to play in the NFL for a long time.
Let's take a look at Roy Hall's team so far. Joey Bosa, Eli Apple, Taylor Decker, Michael Thomas. Any surprises there for you?
Not really. I like that team, but I like the other team too. I mean, but it's a good mix in my opinion.
Well,
outstanding play.
I hate to cut you off. The next pick is in, though. Fast one. Commissioner Taberi with the call.
With the 8th pick in the Wall-to-Wall Sports Buckeye Draft, Beanie Wells selects Adolphus Washington.
Tim, you want to be able to run the football in the NFL and stop the run. Beanie Wells trying to do that. He has Zeke Elliott and now Adolphus Washington.
Yeah, it's a curious pick. I mean, Adolphus Washington, I liked him. I had him projected in the 1st round a long time ago.
Sure.
You know, and then he had his off-the-field problem, and in the combine things, he didn't run very well.
Yeah.
And speed-wise, you know, this is a guy that came into Ohio State as a defensive end and ended up at 3-technique defensive tackle. But he's definitely put on the video, man. He could play the game.
Yeah.
He was very effective as an inside player and got better and better as his last year and a half went on. I think it's a good, solid pick.
Yeah, let's check out Beanie Wells' draft so far. We have Zeke Elliott, Darren Lee, Von Bell, and now Adolphus Washington. Would you do anything differently? Sounds like maybe Adolphus here.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have gone, you know, I've got some guys on my list. I mean, you might take a flyer on Nick Vanette, for example. I like Nick Vanette a lot. I think he helps you offensively.
That concludes the first day, though, of our wall-to-wall sports Buckeye draft. Our green room is still full of players waiting to get drafted. Cardell Jones, Tyvis Powell, Joshua Perry. Where will they get drafted? You'll have to come back tomorrow night for day 2 of the Buckeye draft. We'll see you then.